Game of Thrones Season 8 is fastly approaching the date of 1 month away. Let's face it, before we know it, it will be that date, and at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if we did not get a trailer at all. I mean, I'm joking. They can't do that, right? In this video, I want to discuss a brand new plot leak that was sent to me in regards to the first 3 episodes of Game of Thrones Season 8. I'm also going to provide all the confirmed information that we have to go along with those episodes. As always, the leaked part of this video is to be taken with a grain of salt, and more or less is for purely entertainment purposes. But as always, here's your sign and let's begin. Please, before we get started, slap a like on this video as the like goal is going to be 1,420. Also, make sure you're subscribed, and then, this is the most important part, make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Now, to start out with, let's begin with episode 1 of what we know, what's been confirmed so far. And to begin with, we need to start by saying props to HBO's security team. They had a handle on most of the spoilers for Game of Thrones Season 8. We have been leaked some information, but as far as we know, that could be intentionally leaked. And I think the whole reason why there were multiple rumors of the security team hiring a group of dudes to shoot down drones or hawks that are trained to attack drones as they fly over stuff, even if those rumors aren't true, they still serve their purpose, and I think less people attempted to get spoilers for this final season. Now, what we do know about episode 1 is that the episode itself is going to be directed by David Nutter, and it's been confirmed that Jon and Daenerys will pretty much arrive at Winterfell in the first episode. Given the few promos that we've seen so far, we do know that most likely the two of them will make it, if not at the very beginning of the episode, they'll likely make it towards the end. Now, if you go back to Game of Thrones Season 7, Jon Snow mentioned that they should not fly directly there on Daenerys' dragons, and from the scene that happened, we all got the impression that there was going to be a bit of a journey through the north. It looks like that's going to be escalated quickly, and judging from the promos, we'll probably get a few scenes, and then the climax of the actual episode will likely be Jon Snow and Daenerys' arrival to Winterfell. This hasn't exactly been confirmed, but it's said that dragons are beautiful in the snow. And I just mentioned scenes, but one of the opening scenes is said to be in Wintertown. Now, this was actually confirmed by the top-tier spoiler site, Watchers on the Wall, who are pretty much held in high regards and are considered the ultimate when it comes to Game of Thrones spoilers. And 2 more things that I didn't really want to mention in this section, but I guess they will. A while back, about a week ago on Twitter, supposedly the episode links had been leaked. Now, over these past nearly 2 years that Game of Thrones has been off the air, there have been several different leaks that, obviously in air quotations there, but there have been several different leaks that have said to quote the link to the episodes. Now, this one most recently, a lot of people gave it attention to, but according to it, it was said to be about 58 minutes long. Now, in my opinion, that does seem pretty credible. However, if I had to guess, I would think it would be even longer than that. We do know that there's usually a featurette that plays after the episode that goes in depth in some of the scenes that the writers and directors feel needs more explanation. And that's usually about 10 minutes long. So if you were to add that with the episode length, and this being the final season, and it was rumored to be feature length, I would imagine that the first episode is likely going to come in a little shy of 70 minutes. And just as another reminder, that is nearly 1 month away. We'll say 1 month and a half away, and we're going to be witnessing some of the greatest moments in not just television history, but in my opinion, the history of film. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, yes, movies have a big budget, so when it comes to entrancing someone, and I think that's what a lot of the audience or a lot of moviegoers now, they want to be taken away, which is why comic book movies are dominating the box office. But, those big budget movies are always given props, and they're just incredible. And I think Game of Thrones gets its props and do as well. But one thing that is in my opinion, greater about television is the ability to tell episodic storytelling. The ability to have, nearly after this season will be up, we'll have like 86 hours of Game of Thrones compared to just, 10 to 15 hours of something like the Avengers. That's why, when I always say, and a lot of people always say this is going to be some of the greatest moments in television history, I want to personally clarify that I also mean film history in general. This kind of stuff has never been done on screen before, and we're going to be privy to witness that. Events that have taken years to transpire, I mean, we've practically grown with the characters and get to see them age, which is something very very rare, and you hardly get to see that in film. And when I mean, like, we've grown with the character, I don't know about y'all, whoever's listening to this video, but I'm a completely different person from who I was 6 or 7 years ago when I started watching this show. Alright, but enough of that mini rant. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the leaks. Now, this leak was actually sent to me through the DMs over on Twitter. Speaking of which, make sure you go follow me at sir_hunts. This person states that the opening scene is of a group of whites laying waste to a northern town. Viserion's shrieks can be heard over the horizon. The camera then cuts to the Night King, and it sort of shows off his new armored look. Now that's in quotations. Viserion appears to have grown in size as well, and he does seem to be more decayed, but they're using a new color palette on him, and it makes him look extremely different, almost as if he's a complete dragon entirely. Now just sort of pausing for a second, this leak that was sent to me was actually extremely long. So what I've gone through is I've gone through the first 3 episodes, and I've picked major plot points from each episode, and I'm going to read those. So in episode 1, Jon will find out about his lineage. Before he can get a chance to tell Daenerys, she stops him and explains that she's pregnant. Jon sits down immediately, and apparently this scene is said to be pretty funny. He ends up deciding not to tell Daenerys, and the two of them end the scene with a kiss. Tyrion makes it known, also in this episode, to Daenerys that he doesn't think Jon is the best fit. He explains that the realm may look down upon the bastard of a former traitor. He further mentions that with his, Jon, and her, Daenerys' reputation altogether, Cersei could easily convince the parts of Westeros who don't think the undead are real to join her side against the greatest threat Westeros has ever faced, that being Jon Snow, Daenerys, and Tyrion. In the scene with Daenerys, Tyrion attempts to profess his love to Daenerys, except for she takes it the wrong way and interprets the information that he just told her before about Cersei using Jon Snow, Daenerys, and Tyrion's own reputations to turn the side of Westeros against them. Well, the ones who don't believe in the threat of the undead because they haven't personally seen it anyway. Daenerys tells Tyrion that the only reason why he told her this was because she's jealous of her newfound relationship with Jon Snow. She tells him that it wasn't long ago that she was giving him advice of a Lannister and not the hand of a dragon, and now he's attempting to advise her against pursuing something that could make her happy. The scene ends with Daenerys walking out of the room as Tyrion attempts to call her back. And then another plot point that I want to discuss from the episode 1 leak is Sansa continues her role as a prepper. While making accounts of food storage, Bran mentions how Daenerys burned a large portion of potential southern food supply to the north. This makes him realize that Daenerys may be a greater threat than she seems, or at least her dragons anyway, if they are left unchecked. Bran begins explaining to Sansa and Arya that the destruction that Viserion calls the East Watch is a potential warning of things to come in the future if the dragons were to survive the fight against the undead. Bran goes on to further explain that if Daenerys were to ever turn on the North, they wouldn't stand a chance. In these moments, it seems as though, and this is in parentheses here, it says that Bran is insinuating that Daenerys may turn into her father at any moment. And just as he says this, the flames use a transition cut to Daenerys, who appears out of focus and in the background. The scene ends with Arya walking out into the Winterfell courtyard, and she begins to stare at Drogon, who has just landed on the broken tower just as she walked out. And that's pretty much it for the first episode. I would share my thoughts, but I want to keep this going, so let's jump right into the second episode. So what we know about what's confirmed so far for episode 2, not very much has been confirmed. We do know that if you're following from what I mentioned earlier, which was a leak that came out on Twitter about last week about the episode links, this one is said to be around 62 minutes, and one thing that is confirmed is going to be directed by David Nutter. Just for fun, I'll toss in the idea, since like I said, we don't know much about this episode, is from one of my leaks, according to the same person who wrote the leaks I'm sharing in this episode. They mentioned that it's going to be called The Golden Disguise, and you'll see here why in a second, but David Nutter is famous for directing episodes like The Red Wedding. In my opinion, this confirms that episode 2 of Game of Thrones season 8 will in fact have multiple deaths and betrayals. And according to the leaker, in this episode, Tyrion's betrayal will become very well clear and apparent. There is a scene in episode 2 that starts with him walking down a hallway in Winterfell. It appears to be late night. The Rains of Castamere begin playing in the background, and the purpose of the scene is to remind the audience what the Lannisters are capable of, and that Tyrion is still a Lannister. Later in the episode, Tyrion is talking with Jorah about Jon and Daenerys. Tyrion asks Jorah if it bothers him to see Daenerys with Jon, and Jorah replies with a slow no. He then adds that Jon is a good man and perhaps the best man for our queen. He ends their conversation stating that Jon may be the only person who can defeat the Night King. Just as Jorah walks away from Tyrion, a figure appears blurred in the background. Tyrion doesn't recognize his armor and asks the man if he's from the south coming to side with the north. Just then, the man forces a knife to Tyrion's neck and throws him down a dark alleyway near where he was just having the conversation with Jorah. The man tells Tyrion that he's with the Golden Company and they aren't here to save shit. The man goes on to state that Tyrion has two options: turn over the bastard king in the north or return to camp with him and watch as they burn Winterfell to the ground and bring the head of Daenerys to Cersei. Tyrion decides to help them. The camera then cuts to another scene and we are left in the dark about the plans, whatever plans are made between Tyrion and the Golden Company messenger. And also in episode 2, there is another scene in which Jon and Bran have a meeting. Remember, Jon found out his lineage in episode 1, according to this plot leak. So at this point, Jon hasn't told anyone. Jon begins the conversation with Bran by stating that he can't believe this information is true and further tries to get Bran to explain to him how he knows this is possible. Sam isn't present in this scene, but he was present during Jon's initial telling. Bran then interrupts Jon, stating that the dead will be coming soon, and Jon is the one who was prophesied to save pretty much everything. Jon begins to laugh nervously, and Bran retains the same serious demeanor. Jon responds to Bran, stating that he doesn't know anything about prophecy, and that all he knows is that the Night King must be destroyed. Bran states to Jon that he has seen victory, but he has also seen defeat. He tells Jon that the power of Daenerys' dragons left unchecked would surely destroy everything they are trying to save. Bran then begins telling Jon about the Mad King. Jon interrupts him, stating that he's heard the stories, and that now, according to Bran, the Mad King is his grandfather. Bran replies yes, but also Daenerys' father, and the seed is strong. The conversation ends abruptly when a loud bang can be heard coming from the outside walls of Winterfell. Battle music picks up and 10 to 15 war elephants can be seen as the camera pans out of the room that Bran and Jon are having the conversation in and on to the battlements of Winterfell. The episode ends with the Golden Company attacking Jon as he rushes through a hallway and attempts to take command of his troops. It's made clear that Tyrion led a group of men inside Winterfell and they capture Jon, knocking him unconscious. Now just pausing for a second for a tiny bit of input. We do know that the Golden Company famously does have war elephants. Cersei even mentioned this in Game of Thrones Season 7. So I do think we will get to see them on screen. I just don't know how, and I don't know if it's going to happen in episode 2. In my opinion, it's likely going to happen in episode 3 because this is the episode that's set to be the longest battle in television history. And just sort of using that as a segue into episode 3, what we know confirmed about it is a little bit more than episode 2. According to the actor who plays the Night King, Vladimir Furtick has confirmed at a Comic-Con in Europe that this episode will contain nothing but battle. It's going to be extra long, and the entire episode is going to be made up of a giant battle. Since he mentioned that he was in this episode, we all know him playing the Night King, that this will likely be one of, if not the greatest, fight between the living and the dead. This battle's been building up over 7 seasons and almost 10 years. I'm pretty sure George R. Martin and Dan and Dave have been thinking about this battle for a long time, and what they've envisioned and created will likely blow our heads away. I've mentioned this before in my videos, but just imagine Helm's Deep times 11. Now, according to that same leak that was floated around in regards to the episode link, this one is said to be 78 minutes long, and we all know that since it was dubbed the 66 night long battle, it took roughly 3 months to film. We all know that this is likely going to be one of the highest budgeted episodes, not just for Game of Thrones or for HBO, but for television history. Like, something like this has never been done before, and the amount of time that this is actually going to be on screen equated to the amount of budget that it costs to produce this material will definitely break, if not shatter, several records. I don't know if y'all remember, but last season they actually broke the record for how many people have been set on fire at once, and this season I can only imagine what kind of records they're set. Probably something like how many people can die but then be simultaneously resurrected on screen at the same time, or how much fake blood had to be used in one scene. Now, I rarely talk about this in my videos, but this image actually shows a pretty bloody battle on top of the walls of Winterfell. But with all that aside, let's go ahead and jump into the actual leak for Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 3. After being captured and subdued in that hallway in Winterfell, the episode begins with Jon Snow meeting with Cersei in King's Landing as the cold opener. Now this is in parentheses. It says that time travel this season is cut in half, with scenes appearing to happen over longer periods of time to make up for the differences in how long it takes to travel to certain locations. It's made clear that Jon is unaware of Tyrion's betrayal. Cersei offers Jon his life and offer for him to bend the knee, but Jon refuses. Cersei further explains her proposal, stating that all she wants is Jon to continue fighting the Night King and defeat him, but then after that's said and done, help her banish Daenerys back to Essos. Cersei attempts to emphasize the fact that she does not plan on killing Daenerys, but instead banish her. But Jon Snow still refuses and is walked back to his cell. After reaching the door to his cell, Jon is led into it by a guard who tells him not to drink the water. Just before the guard closes the door, the guard reveals himself to be Jaime and tells Jon that they will make their escape at dawn. And then after this scene, we get a few more scenes up north, and it shows Daenerys and the Starks trying to come up with a plan to rescue Jon. They all agree that they need to defend themselves from the Night King, but they also need to make it a #1 priority to rescue Jon Snow. Arya proposes the idea of Daenerys letting her borrow a dragon and fly it to go and burn Cersei to a crisp, and the two of them smile at each other. The conclusion that everyone ends up agreeing on is reinforcing Winterfell, and Daenerys will lead a group of Unsullied south along with Drogon. Rhaegal will stay behind in case the dead show up and help defend Winterfell. But just as Daenerys and the others begin to head off, the Night King appears in the sky and rains down flame in a row of tents outside Winterfell. Bran tells Daenerys she must hurry and go get Jon. She then takes off into the night sky as legions of the undead lay siege to Winterfell. The camera then jumps back to Jon and Jaime in King's Landing. The two of them are walking through what is clearly the sewers of King's Landing, and Jon thanks Jaime for rescuing him. Jaime tells Jon that he made an oath, more than one as a matter of fact, and this was the least thing he could do since he was already on his way before he saw Jon being brought in as a prisoner through the Riverlands and decided to follow them back into King's Landing. The two of them make it to a clearing outside of King's Landing and find the horses that Jaime left there for them. They immediately begin riding north. We then jump back up north to pure chaos. Rhaegal is severely injured after a fight with Viserion, and he manages to send the Night King into retreat, but the undead, most of the army, still remain. The episode ends with tremendous amounts of uncertainty, and it is intentionally left on a massive cliffhanger. With that being said, this video is almost 17 minutes long, so fair warning, this plot leak does get extremely bad after the first 3 episodes, which is why I said I would only cover them in this video. But if you all want, I'll cover the last 3 episodes according to this plot leak in a live stream format so we could really comb through all the details. I'm currently still waiting on a few more things in the mail before I start streaming again, but if you all want me to cover the last 3 episodes according to this leak, then let me know down below in the comment section, and also let me know if you found anything in particular in this leak that was unbelievable or that you thought was right on with how Game of Thrones handles scenes and situations between certain characters. Alright, and with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this video, as the like goal is going to be 1,420. Also, make sure you're subscribed, and then this is the most important part. Make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Also, super special shout out to every single person watching this video right now. And a super special thank you to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHunsReviews. I want to thank every single person again so much for watching. My name is Mark, and this has been Sir Huns Reviews.